This is what's my copy.
Um. Call the workshop meeting of the Harlem Township Zoning Commission to order. And Valerie, would you call the roll, please?
Mike Kavler,
Here.
Jenny Mancy.
Here.
Virginia Lewis.
Here.
Tom Need.
Here.
Brittany Howard. Molly Snodgrass.
Here.
Louis Greenway.
Here.
Thank you.
Brittany did send me a message. I just saw it before I left home that she was ill and would not be attending this evening, so either Molly or Louis, you would be selected to then serve as a voting member of the commission tonight. I don't know if I have a point, I was gonna say I can flip a coin unless.
Who got
one of you
appointed
just stepped,
first?
huh?
Who got appointed first?
They both were appointed the same night, but I don't know who was first on the agenda.
Molly was.
Molly was? Well, then Molly, you were appointed first. So we'll start with you, and then in the future, we need just one, you're both here, yes.
You flip back.
Yeah. And flip back and
Switch off.
forth. So with that, Molly, Molly Snodgrass will serve as a voting member of the commission this evening due to Brittany Hopper's absence.
I see Brittany is online.
Oh, hi, Brittany. You were able to, you feel well enough to get online. She apparently is concerned she doesn't want to spread anything to the rest of us, which is
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
That would
I
not be fun.
appreciate that. And, well, Scott came in, but he left. He'll be right back. In the meantime, I'll wait till Scott gets back in, then we'll go through the process of introducing everyone else. But for Valerie Hamill is our zoning assistant. She's standing at the podium right now. And I'll introduce the other folks when they come back into the room. For those of you who are participating as members of the public here in person, we would ask that at the time that we open for public comment or questions, that you would go to the this podium so that you can be picked up by that microphone, and that way it will be recorded, and those people who are participating via the Zoom will be able to hear you, and we will also be recording the meeting. And at that point, then we'll go ahead very quickly and take this a little bit out of order. I want to get approval on the minutes for April the 8th. We did not approve those last week. I looked it up in terms of Robert's Rules of Order, and yes, it's fine for anyone. If you're absent, you can still vote on the minutes, even if you are absent.
I will make
So-
a motion to approve the minutes of April 8th as previously corrected.
Thank you, Joni,
A second.
and seconded by Virginia. If you don't feel comfortable voting on those, Molly, it would be up to you. You can abstain.
I'll just abstain because I wasn't there
All
at
right,
April
when
8th.
we call for the vote, that's what you can do. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All the minutes that are reviewed, they are sent to all the members and they are reviewed, and then we discuss those at the meeting and make a decision about whether to approve the minutes as corrected or not. So that's where we are tonight with April the 8th. I know that these have been reviewed and they have had some corrections, so the copy that we have presently would be the copy that we would be acting to approve. Is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none, then if you call, I'll call the question or call for a vote, and all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. All right, the minutes are approved for April the 8th. And there are some additional persons present now that I want to introduce. Jim Steelsmith is working as a consultant with the township in terms of providing guidance and assistance in development, working in conjunction with our zoning director, Mike Cannon, who's also here in the room. And the person who just walked out again is Scott Sanders. Scott is their director of regional planning, and he will be the main presenter here this evening. When we get to that, we're going to ask him to walk us through again the changes. These are changes that we have discussed previously on some of the articles, on Article 7 and 8. On the definitions, Article 20, the alternative energy systems. We have a copy of those, but we've not reviewed them previously. And then we will finish up working on Article 15, which is the article that deals with
Planned commercial.
planned commercial. Okay. At this point, though, I'll come back and we say that we have the opportunity to take 5 minutes. If there's a member of the public that has a quick question that we can answer at this point, we'll be happy to do that. Otherwise, we have a public comment section again later in the evening that will be longer. There's needs to be discussion. Kind of a significant issue. Anybody have a quick question?
I can try and go in 5 minutes. That work?
What's your question?
I don't have a question. I just, do you want me to go up there and talk up there?
Oh, you need to go to the microphone, please. Yes.
I have to state my name or anything like that. Okay. So I'm Courtney Wade with Ada Zoning. I've worked with you guys for a number of years on lot splits and rezonings. And over the years, we've discussed the net acreage and I've discussed that with some of the members. And we have had friendly disagreements on some misinformation that I felt like I wanted to share with you guys. So I brought you a little bit of packets here about that. Oh, here. And I just wanted to go over those. At one point I had a conversation with board members or a board member that had mentioned that the residents get paid for the easements that the county agencies require for the lot split. So I have given you some exhibits, not that I expect you to go over it tonight, but just in consideration about exhibit 1 is an email from Soil Water, Brett Bacon, stating that the clients do not receive payments for the easements, for drainage easements. I did have also a exhibit of that is the number 2 through 4, each sample of the easements that the county requires me to provide that exact language that shows the amounts that shows like $1, which I was told was a placeholder. They don't get $1 for that easement. So I wanted to provide you with that information. The sanitary example doesn't even have an amount on there. So if that was something that you guys as a board are considering, I had a conversation with a board member that said that they thought that the people got paid for the easements that they are required to give. And I just wanted to give you some exhibits that is not actually true. Number 2 was residents do not pay taxes on the acres that the county agency requires in the easement. And so exhibit 5 shows a exhibit that is an email from the auditors that states how that is assessed and how easements are actually included in their assessment. For their taxes, they pay for the total amount that is the acreage that is actually surveyed, not net acreage. So I wanted to give that for you to review. And then I was also speaking to someone, they thought that especially in the cases of net acreage, when I can't meet those requirements, that I have exhibit and an email with Kelly about how that is not negotiable. I tried to actually get Kelly for Mr. Clark when we were under the impression that we had to have all easements included in the net acreage, and how she would not give a variance for that. So I've included that. So those, I've have all the labels on there for the exhibits. I guess what I'm trying to explain to the board is, sometimes I know when I was working with my zoning commission, we didn't always understand the effects of our decisions, how it affected the residents on the other side. And I know that those things were things that you were considering while you were considering the net acreage. And I just wanted to clear up some of the, hopefully try to respectfully clear up some of the net acreage misinformation out there. Mr. Clark is on a corner road and he has 4.77 acres. If I were to have not split his lot and I calculated his easements total on there, without splitting it, just with one lot, he had just 2.25 acres left over. Now, if I was able to do just the road right away, then we could have easily split that, which I think we have worked out, but he also paid over $1,500 for improvements to the drainage easement on there. He has to pay taxes on it. He didn't have a say in the matter. The government actually came in and said he was required to give up these easements. And he's also paying taxes on those and doing the maintenance as far as keeping on that. And I just feel like it's not necessarily fair to ding them one more when I can totally meet the 2 acre minimum for them, which is typical in a lot of the townships. There's one other township that does do net acreage. I know they're having the same difficulties there. And talking with the residents, most of them feel like it's an extra punishment and overstepping of the government. A lot of these lots, I have to make 2 1/4, sometimes 2.5 acres to meet your net acreage that they are paying extra taxes on, and they're not even able to utilize that land because they certainly can't put any structure or anything in there as well. So I was just trying to pass along some information that I'd collected in hopes that you would maybe consider that while you were looking at your zoning code on net acreage. And respectfully is the key word. So, all right. Do you have any questions? Was that 5 minutes?
No, I don't have any questions. Either of you? No questions. This is the issue that you had though with the specific lot in question that's been resolved. Am I correct, Mike?
Yeah,
Yes.
we've resolved that.
Thank you. All right. Looking at the agenda, we've taken care of the minutes. And now we'll go ahead and move into new business. The first thing though that I want to do before we get to the old business is recognize Mr. Steelsmith, Jim Steelsmith, and ask Jim if you would address for us the expectations and what the role is going to be for the zoning commission now that there is no longer a committee for development in the township specifically. So you have basically, in a sense, you've kind of taken over that role, at least insofar as being a liaison with Holly, Maddie, and the trustees. And you're working with developers, with Holly, in developing any new language that's going to be brought forward with other overlay districts. And I understand that there is one that's been in the works, but
Yeah.
wasn't finished before the strategic planning committee disbanded, but that would be the first one coming forward, I think. So
Yeah.
that, you can address that.
Yeah,
I'm turning it over to you now.
Yeah, that's basically correct. So the trustees have asked the zoning and planning department to pick up the slack, so to speak, without the strategic planning. I'm in economic development, so under Mike's tutelage. So the trustees have asked us to work with Holly on finishing some overlays that we started. And basically, it would be a northern overlay along Trenton Road, mixed use, and coming down 605. When that gets done, basically, we're just going over what was already started. Not a lot of changes. Any changes I would obviously point out to the board. And then they would then submit, Holly will then submit it to the board. So you won't have all of the eyes on it that we had previously had before you got to it. However, I don't think that's going to be a problem. Everybody on this board is used to looking at them. And also, you have two board members that were members of strategic planning and had seen this stuff come along also. So when it gets to you, because you didn't have the oversight prior, I myself would then give you a preview of what's in it. Molly Ridge from Holly Mattie's firm, Crossroads Planning, would probably be available and put it up on the screen like she has before as you go through it. Also, Holly Mattie will be available either, depending on what we're doing, either by phone or by Zoom. She's not able to attend every meeting. That would be very, very expensive for the township. So that's basically how the trustees had asked for it to go forward. So is there any questions on that part?
How soon are you anticipating that?
Talk to Holly.
Really brought forward?
Yeah, we're looking sometime late June. And it's gonna take you a while to go through them.
So it may not be brought to us until July or August, am I hearing that?
She's hoping to have it, well, yeah, because of your meetings. Yeah, it may not come till first part of July. And how encompassing, I don't know if it's going to be split or have different sections inside of it. What we're trying to do is come up with a nice mixed use to augment the annexations of Sunbury that have come down to almost Trenton Road. So Mike and I had met with Sunbury.
So in a general sense, what area of the township are we talking about?
Trenton Road, the northwest. Northwest of 605, west of 605, along Trenton Road.
So it would. How
That's
far
where they
south
annexed.
is Trenton? Well, no, just.
Well, so we're on the
probably-
south side, so we're on the south side of Trenton.
Oh, I know, but how far south? Is it just the property?
It's going to, well, that's pretty well developed. So there's some farms along there, so probably just those open fields. It's not gonna go real deep.
Not all the way to Woodtown or anything.
I don't believe so. I'll have to wait and see what, she's looking at the acreage available. Also, it's gonna come over and come down a lot of the acreage on 605 and head south. And basically trying to encompass, the remainder of the township on that part. I think there is an industrial section still left on Trenton Road on the east side that some of the Cotty relatives, as those properties, were all once part of each other. I've asked that they be included in that industrial. So there may be an additional industrial also.
Under our previous, not the current, but under our previous master plan, the area up there where the intersection came to 605, there was an area there designated as industrial. But it's no longer the case, but that was where we're.
Right, so we're extending, not quite to 605, but that area.
Yeah, so there are some, I don't know how many, I'd have to look, but there is some property up there that
Yeah.
is zoned industrial.
Right, so you got the old zoning and then you'll have an overlay.
Yeah.
Depending on what they want to do. So I don't think it'll be as massive as it was in the past. One thing is everybody's going to be familiar with it. And a lot of it's going to be some of the wording, because we've already worked out what what is being said on the previous ones as far as requirements. That will be just cut and paste, so to speak, on some of the verbiage. So I think as much as possible, it's going to be streamlined for you. But like I said, you won't have strategic planning available to do some of the proof work, so to speak. But there again, you've got people who are familiar with it, and of course, the whole board's familiar with it. So, but that's what the trustees are asking at this point.
Your role, did I describe it correctly when I used the term liaison?
Well, not really. I'm just, Mike and I are, because there's nobody else over there.
The title,
Huh?
the title,
Yeah, like,
giving the title.
no, I don't have a title.
Hmm.
I'm in economic development, so, but this is part of that, yeah.
So if you're in economic development, so are you working on things like JEDs and NCAs and stuff like that with?
Yeah, I'm gonna get a
surrounding-
big presentation on that Wednesday night.
You're making a presentation to the trustees on Wednesday.
Right, and then also we've got newsletter going out. And that's an ongoing. That's ongoing. If, one thing I will share with you, if everybody remembers, in all our mixed use overlays and industrial overlays require the applicant to join the JED.
Mhm.
So it's not, it's not that we weren't doing JEDs, you just had to have 3 parties in order to do a JED. So as we get people who are interested in using the overlay, then that would enact the requirement to have a JED.
Then you have to have some municipality who's also in.
We're working on that. And the problem that we had so far in talking with Sunbury, Galena and Johnstown is they're only 1%. Their income tax is only 1%. New Albany and Westerville are 2%, and Columbus is 2.5%.
And what was wrong with the 1%?
It's not enough money. Because you split it. In some
So they're not
form.
interested, okay.
Yeah, it's not enough. It's not worth anybody's while as far as to bring in money to pay for the infrastructure and the improvements. Yeah, and of course, then the municipality isn't going to give us, Mike and I joked with Sunbury that they could just give us the whole 1%, but they didn't think that was too funny.
Mhm.
But that's the problem with 1%. It's, even if you split it down the middle, it's not enough funds to try to do infrastructure and that type of thing. You need a larger income tax structure.
It's not as big a deterrent either.
Huh?
1% is not as big a deterrent of annexation as
Right,
3%
right,
is.
yeah. So, but we can go over all that later if you like, but
Oh, yeah, we
Sure. And
I
have
didn't
you,
want to spend time doing it
No,
now.
but you-
Just
have
an
you-
overview.
yeah, have you looked at as far as Granville? Can you go as far as Granville?
you can only have one in between you.
Mhm.
So originally we looked at Granville and there was a problem. I can't tell you, I don't have my notes with me. I can't tell you if there was somebody in between or if they weren't enough. They did not have enough.
Mhm.
The other thing you have to remember is whoever you talk to has got to be willing to do it.
Mhm.
And so sometimes, you have that case, and right now Granville has a lot going on.
Mhm.
And so at one point, there had been over on another one Holly was working on, they'd gone to Whitehall. Because on one of the easterly townships, there wasn't anybody in the way.
Mhm.
So they could go to Whitehall. But so we're looking at that. Obviously, we're gonna look at the close ones. They're more in tune with what we're doing and what we need. And also it would be in conjunction with what they're doing. So that's what we're doing on that. The other thing I wanted to go over, the board, this evening, it was brought up the other day, so I did, more research and got approval on this. So the workshops on for the overlays, people who come in and want a workshop for a project that they want to do. The requirements on a workshop for an overlay would be 1 or 2 members from the zoning and planning, which would be Mike's department, would oversee the plans as they come in and what they want to talk about. If they want to say, well, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? Also, if need be, and probably will be, just 2 board members from the zoning board would be present. So how you pick those people or go by volunteers, I don't know. The idea being there's no quorum. So that way, if you have an opinion or want to suggest something to the people, it's not a quorum, that they can't come back and say, well, you said this or you said that. Because after all, they're just coming for advice and an idea of what might work and what might not work. So also 1 trustee can be present. There again, 2 can't. So you could have a total of maybe 5 look at it, 4 look at it, 2, just depends on what's coming in. I know Joe Clace had brought up that he wanted to bring some stuff in. So we don't know exactly what it is. The workshops can be 2 meetings. So the first one might be where Mike takes a look at it and says, oh, okay, this is pretty in depth. Then we bring on everybody else, the 2 from the board, a trustee, and 2 from planning. We just, it depends on each case, but there won't be on the overlays, there won't be a full board workshop. And so like I said,
The new procedures that we adopted
that,
are what we will follow.
right, that's what we're following.
And yes, there's a bit of a difference, not much, between the residential
Oh,
plan
looking at is mixed use,
conservation versus the others.
Yeah. In this case, it was mixed use. But anyway, trustees are happy with that. And also it takes some of the burden off of the zoning board if you get busy. Now that you have 5 members plus 2 alternates. And that most, in fact, all but 1 are very familiar with the overlays. So I think that is an advantage as far as looking at these going forward, and hopefully we can help the applicants get an idea what's available or as far as zoning and what they're allowed to do and not allowed to do. I had 2 phone calls over the weekend. It's like I tell people, real estate never sleeps. So developers and builders and stuff, they'll call it anytime. And but both of those were regarding overlays. So there again, you give them the spiel, bring your stuff in to a workshop and we'll have people look at it. So
Okay.
that's all I had. If you don't have any other questions.
And the people who are calling you, they're still aware that we need sewers before they can
Use
do
the
these
overlay.
developments.
But you're as Tiffany would call it, the tunnel,
Mhm,
that's your sewer coming in.
mhm.
Is supposed to be up and running by the first part of 26. And based on how long it takes, like we went through with the Conservancy, hopefully we've got it streamlined a little more. But by the time you get to regional planning and engineering and all that, it takes a good year to get that stuff through. So even though they're doing the zoning correctly, it just planning wise, it takes a lot. Plus, I don't know, on their end, on the private sector, they've got financing, subcontractors, planning. So, and then how it's going to fit into their schedule. So, a year and a half seems like a long time, but when they start putting that on paper, it's not that long,
No, it's been that long with Dump and Run.
right? By the way,
We still don't have a shovel on the ground over there.
they abandoned that. They are not going to start the Conservancy. They called me and they are putting the property up for sale.
Oh, they have abandoned it now? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they just let us know last week.
Huh. Well, that's interesting.
So the property, I know. That was gonna be our spotlight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but,
looking forward to it.
yeah. So, they're going to try to market it as shovel ready. Everything, the work that's been done would be, a continuation of that. And hopefully whoever is looking at it and needs, the lots, the subdivision, that type of thing, could just pick it up, I haven't even looked at what they need to do to, as far as changing ownership and using, what was already approved. But that's what they're marketing as shovel ready to go. There's no guarantee. Go ahead.
Which property or potential development was this?
Harlem Road in Gorsuch. Yeah.
Yeah, the Conservancy at Duncan Run.
Okay, I didn't know it was called that, but I know I'm.
Well,
It changed.
that changed.
Oh,
yes.
okay. And
So
apparently,
that's why.
Yeah.
Now, it is now
But
called
we have-
officially Conservancy.
And there's nothing wrong with the project. The Steiner Group is a large group. They do a lot. And they are just buried on other larger projects. They don't see how, they can get the subs, you're gonna cut the roads and do all that. They're having a hard time getting, the workforce that they need for their other projects. They're larger and are already started.
Okay,
So, they just, maybe a smaller developer. But they're just having problems getting, everything together on the larger projects.
So are they trying to sell it where whoever buys it keeps the development plan that's already in place?
They're trying to, yes. No guarantee that they'll do that.
Okay,
So as you got the sewer coming up the Harlem Road area, they could wait for that sewer.
yeah,
And remember, you have a developer on the other half of that property who is waiting on sewer.
yeah.
That's when you're dealing with, private individuals. I know.
private people.
Yeah.
The property is owned.
Yeah,
private.
they own it, they can do what they want as long as it's within the law. But, and they seem, I talked to Todd, the real estate man. And, I mean, they seem sad. I'm sorry that, they weren't going forward, but it was an economic issue. And also a, issue based on, availability of workforce.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah,
And
I was too. Yeah, but,
And I hope they're able to.
if
find
it
buyers.
doesn't market, maybe they'll do it, they'll circle around, in time. If it doesn't, sell, I think it will in time. Hopefully, this is somebody that's going to use it the way it's already, the time and the effort and they put a lot of money in it,
Yes, they did.
to get that going. So that, like I said, they are marketing it as shovel ready.
They've got a very nice plan.
Uh-huh. And,
And just to pick up on one thing you did say, if the property is on the market now and it doesn't sell, and they circle around a year or two from now and they say, we're ready to do it, we've got workforce available,
mhm,
and we've hung on to it this long. And so I don't think they've thrown in the towel. What they're trying to do, I think, is to recoup some of their investment, get
right,
some money out of it if they can.
right.
If not, they may come back. and-
They have to come back through our whole process, though, if that's the case, right? There's an expiration on how long.
I don't recall how long it is, but we'd have to look to see. But
Yeah.
yes, there is an
Yeah,
expiration
Yeah,
if they don't get started on it.
Yeah, I know. I don't know how, I don't know if,
They can request an extension.
mhm.
yeah, I could do that.
And that might be smart if they're,
I,
whether,
I might call Todd and tell him that. And, that they need to keep their timeline up on that. And not to forget, they are willing partners in Harlem Township. And they own a lot of other ground and continue to buy ground in Harlem Township. So, I mean, they haven't abandoned Harlem Township. They're very, forward thinking, easy to work with group, as you saw. And, so they wish to continue, to be that way. So, yeah, you might want to, get back to one of you on getting an extension, so I can convey that to them.
I can't find it quickly.
That's fine.
There's language in here that talks about that.
Right, and that, that's on the old overlay, so. Okay.
Well, thank you, Jim. Any other questions?
Anything else? Okay, guys, thank you.
No. At times they are changing. All right, Scott, let's come back to where we were
Yay.
with the revisions in the articles. Let's see. I didn't even, in the list, I didn't put down the definitions. Is there? And then I'm looking and thinking, oh, that's right, we did make some changes in the definitions. Is there anything that we need to go back and take a look at that in any way, Scott?
No, it was just a page or two. So that was just included because that was the whole package that was still.
Yeah. They're basically completed, the definitions that we were going to do at this point. There's no need to go back over anything there. And they're the first two pages. Okay, then so we jump to Article 7. And these are, for everyone, as a reminder, what we've got are the changes that we approved back in March. Scott then took that information from our discussion and is bringing it back now. It's not that we're going to approve, we're not going to set a date for a hearing on these at this point in time, because we've got other articles that we're working on as well. And it's better to do more than one article at a time when we schedule a hearing. So Article 7. Anybody have any questions about these changes? Scott picked up everything.
It seemed like it was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
With the idea of the
I thought he picked up everything and I didn't notice. At least I didn't mark any issues on the new one.
you didn't find any issues.
Not
To
for 7.
Courtney's point, the rewrite, the redraft on AR on the 5-acre parcels, even on gross acreage.
That's 8. That's 8. That's Article 8. That's not Article 7.
No,
No,
Sorry, it is Article 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one we're talking about. My
Yeah.
apologies. You're
Yeah.
correct.
yeah, it doesn't actually address Courtney's problem since she wants less than 2 acres.
I know, but
No.
on both. But
Sorry, it just came out of my mouth.
But we did, we months ago, we talked about
Removing.
removing the net acreage on large parcels, large farm parcels.
And we agreed that
And we agreed to do that. On the 2-acre parcels, we did not agree to do that.
we never really reached agreement.
Mm.
Correct.
We had a lot of discussion about it and the meeting, I recall Scott specifically saying, well, since we can't come to agreement, we're gonna leave it the way that it is. And we all agreed to that.
Mhm.
It
So,
wasn't that strong. I just said, let's move on, probably.
yeah, we were debating, discussing it and there really wasn't much of a change because
Yeah.
it was in terms of where we stood with that, but so right now, when we get to 8, we'll go over that specifically, what the language is there, so that it's clarified for the public. And then we are clear on what we're doing, but for development standards for 5-acre parcels, the lot area now just says no parcel of land in this district shall have an area of less than 5 gross acres. So the word net's out of it for 5 acres or more. We kept getting ourselves running into issues with that with the engineer's office and the map room. Because anytime that they went in, someone brought in they wanted to separate off 5 acres, they'd get it approved. And we had more than one instance where the 5 acres was 5 gross acres, but it was not 5 net acres. Even limiting it to just road rights of way.
Mhm.
It was not 5 net acres. So now we've changed that. That's probably, and then the other change is just that we made a lot of wording changes where we took limited home occupation, all the details of that. That actually has been removed from the article, but it appears in a separate article now. It's already been approved by the trustees. That language, and now, so now the reference is just to that section of the of our zoning resolution.
The
And-
other.
Go ahead, Tom.
The other major change that I'd like to point out is basically for Mike Cannon's benefit. Where we've talked about the setback side yard and rear yard setbacks and the differences between flag lots and curb lots, and that's been removed. So flag lots are no different now. And there's very little difference between the setbacks on 2-acre lots and 5-acre lots, except for the rear setback. 2-acre lots are 50 feet. 5-acre lots are 80 feet. Other than that, the setbacks are pretty much the same regardless of the acreage. That may make things clear to,
Well, it makes things more fair for the residents.
so that's in the new, the resolution that we have not yet voted on and have not forwarded to the trustees, but it's in there.
But this, we're not anticipating that we're going to make any additional changes. But that's the purpose of having the discussion tonight. At some future date, we will be setting a hearing date for this article along with some others. Okay, on Article 7, is there anything that anyone has a question about that we need to review?
The only thing I'd like to mention to Scott is if we could make a note at some point, that in, 7, so landscaping standards. And we refer to section 2107 of the resolution. And section 2107 basically doesn't say anything. A very short paragraph that has no direction. So I think we need to work on that landscaping standard at some point. To flesh out what AR and FR say.
It's not that it's wrong, it's just that
It doesn't say anything. Doesn't say anything.
Well, Article 21 is the general development standard.
Correct.
So at some point, we will go through that article with the potential of making some changes. So your point's well taken. That'd be the time to do it.
doesn't define what your landscape standards are, it's just they shall be landscape. Maybe there's nothing I know.
General question on that, if significant changes are made to like landscaping requirements, does that mean that people have to like change their landscaping if it doesn't comply with the new requirements?
I would imagine our landscaping requirements will be fairly broad.
I agree, but like,
It
I'm just,
wouldn't apply to, they typically don't apply to FR1, AR1. They
Okay.
would be referenced and that's why it's probably good that this is pretty general.
It's very general, yeah.
But if a planned commercial came in, they would want some landscape standards to rely on. And so that's what those would be linked to.
And as we would work on 21, we could indeed address it that way. Because right now, it's just one simple sentence. Applies to everything. But we talk about planned commercial, we do discuss specifics with the property owner in terms of what standards need to be met. But it doesn't make reference back to this. It then becomes a part of what gets approved as the planned commercial development. We have a few of those in the township. Okay. Well, at this point then, as far as the definition section that we have in Article 7, we're ready to move on to Article 8. Okay. Article 8 is farm residential,
Yes.
and that is the one that Courtney was really asking and raising a question and issue about net acreage. And the language right now that we have proposed in this document under development standards
Is under 806A.
lot area. It currently, the changes are now, so it will read, no parcel of land in this district shall have an area of less than 2 net acres, excluding all recorded easements and road rights of way. Period. That's the new language. And that language matches the language that is in section 802. Where in 802, it has said in the past, all lands within Harlem Township, which are to be used for low density, single family residences and other essentially non-urban types of residential and agricultural activities shall be not less than 2 net acres, excluding all easements.
All recorded easements.
We
right?
inserted, that's the new word.
Yeah,
We inserted the word recorded here because that's been the practice. That's what we've done. I don't know for how many years, but a lot of years. And rights of way and shall be controlled by the provisions of this article of the zoning resolution. So we eliminated the potential for an inconsistency between the language here and the language that is in section 806, paragraph A. They
There is-
now
yeah.
read the same.
There's still one slight inconsistency.
Oh, there is?
The word road appeared, road rights of way in one and rights of way in the other.
Under the purpose. it
So
doesn't
under-
have the
under
word- It
application-
doesn't have the word road.
Right,
Yeah.
so either we add it in under 802 or we remove it from 806. I would prefer that we leave it in a road rights of way, I think, on what would attract on the auditor's website.
Now we inserted.
inserted under 802.
So I would add the word road
Under 802.
under 802.
All recorded easements and road is the change that we're recommending tonight, Scott.
This might be a stupid question, but is the only right of way a road right of way? Is that like the only right of way?
It looks like Brittany has unmuted. Oh, never mind. And was maybe trying to talk, but I couldn't hear anything.
Is Brittany trying to speak?
I don't know. I just saw it light up and that's the first time I've seen it light up. So I don't know if she's trying to. Oh, she went back to muted. Okay.
Brittany, do you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I was trying to speak, but it's not working.
See, we can't hear her. So
No, we're not able to hear you. Can you get the volume up so we can hear it?
I'm sure the volume's on, trying to speak, not working. Her question is the only type of right of way a road right of way?
And the way the county uses the word right of way, I would say road rights of way are the only right of way, but it's safer to have the word. in there.
Okay.
So I was gonna say that, but. It could cause an argument if you don't clarify, so might as well leave the word. right.
Okay.
I found one other thing that I think we had decided last time, under the building dimensions.
Building dimensions, what
Yeah.
section is it?
Page 809.
It's page 809. It's section 806D.
Okay, yeah, D.
We had talked about eliminating the word one in the parentheses for the 1-story stuff, because we don't do it in 2-story or 1.5-story. And it would get rather excessive if we did the 1.5-story spelled out too.
All the other times we bugged you about adding that in, and now that's what we want to take out.
Well, otherwise we gotta add it to the 1.5
Oh, I
and
know.
the 2, and it's kind of.
Keeping him on his toes.
I did not find any places where he missed adding in the words in the, or the.
No, I haven't either.
This point,
And
We've
if,
eaten it in enough
First
here.
time through, so
and if you look at Article 7,
right,
it
that's-
is simply 1 story without brackets. That's fine.
All right. So. Oh, you. With regard to, the changes then that we're talking about making the net acreage statements consistent, but we're at this point, basically agreeing we're gonna leave it all recorded easements. Am I correct? Is there anyone that thinks that needs to be changed? This is for the members of the commission. Well, we know that there's people in the public that would like to see it changed. Scott, I'm gonna come to you and ask you the question. I think we've asked it before. Is it our township and one other township that's using net acreage now? Everybody else has stopped?
I wouldn't say it's something people have stopped. It's just the way it's happened over the years. I can't think. I mean,
Concord.
already mentioned that.
I do remember that we have discussed this a number of times, and it always comes down to, as long as there are septic systems, you gotta be able to have 2 types of septic fitting into this lot, plus your buildings and whatnot. And it's always been felt that having that 2 net acres gives you a better chance of being able to fit all that.
Especially with the type of soil that underlies most of the parcels in the town.
Right.
And we could see that when we looked at the pipeline.
Yes,
There's just,
there's certain soils that are just not suited for any septic stuff, really.
So, one comment is that the road rights of way are deducted from the taxable acreage. So those are, yes.
I asked them.
It says it in the letter. I think you misunderstood. The letter that you got, the road right of way is deducted from the gross acreage. It's not taxed.
If it's dedicated right of way,
If it's dedicated.
if it's in an easement that still shows the parcel to the center line, you're still in the center line, but. I thought they were capturing, and I'm not in the engineer's department, but. I thought the dedicated right of way separated it from the parcel, so you don't own
There's a
it.
difference.
Yeah, now on the recorded easements, I agree that if it's an electrical easement, if it's a water easement, at some point, somebody got paid for that easement. It may not be the current property owner, maybe way back in the history of the parcel, but somebody got paid.
But what I think she was saying is, in the course of doing a lot split. The sanitary engineer's office requires the dedication of a 10-foot strip, 10-foot wide, 20-foot wide. So it's just on a piece of paper, it's just a dotted line, you still own that parcel.
Mhm.
And you should pay
Sanitary
that.
didn't pay for it.
That I agree, but
But
and
yes,
you're still paying taxes on it. Theoretically, right?
but you're right, this one letter here from Erica Music does say a right of way is where the government entity would purchase or take a portion of the property from the owner. In this case, the portion of property will change ownership. The client will no longer own the portion. Your client's land value for taxing purposes would go down because the amount of land they own has decreased.
And
So-
then say something else, if the county comes through and widens the road and requires you to give them 10 extra feet,
Mhm.
they will pay for that. You may not like what they pay, and there may be an argument,
Right.
but that is paid for. In the course of a lot split or a subdivision, the belief is you're kind of becoming a developer because you're probably gonna sell the other lot unless it's to a kid, but you know, who can control that? So that is as a condition of splitting your lot to potentially sell that lot, the right of way is acquired without fee. And until that's challenged,
Yeah.
that's the way it works.
But we're talking about a purchase of a right of way and then the continual taxation
Okay.
as property.
Yeah, I was just trying to
Yeah.
get for the fact
Yeah.
that it's not that people never get paid for easements. But there are cases where they don't.
Where they don't, right?
So. So in an instance where like I've got the power line going across the middle of my property. The previous owners got paid for that. It has now been passed to me. I'm not getting any money
Not
from
getting
that.
any money for it. No.
Do they own that strip? Do I own that strip?
Not if it's just an easement.
You own it,
But you can't use it.
but you can't use it.
That's what that's.
Do
what
I
an
get
easement
taxed
is.
on it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But I can't use it.
You can use it, but if somebody ever needs to dig it up.
They can blow right through my fence. Yeah, okay.
If you're a farmer, you can plant.
Yeah, you.
Yeah, you could, but you can't do any permanent structure without them just coming in and plowing it
Yeah,
down.
you
right,
put up
too.
potentially even a fence, you put up a fence, if they come in and the fence is in the way, they can take it down.
Yeah.
But all those things that go on, like you guys are talking about, that's not the property owner's fault. That an easement got taken from them or power lines come through their property. They're probably still taking care of that property.
Yeah,
Well, and the issue that I have always felt like I've faced with our property is we are AR1 and met acreage standards until they put that power line across. And now we're a non-conforming, well, if our language goes back the other way, then we go back to being conforming. Nope, our frontage isn't enough, regardless.
Mhm.
Hypothetically, we had enough acreage that we would have been a conforming lot, and then that easement took that away.
And I think with the BZA, if it ever came to the BZA, they would say it was not your. It was not something that you did.
Yes,
That created this non-conformance. It happened to you, and so you're not gonna be penalized.
so
but I
that,
still have to pay my BZA fee to get them to allow me to like build my
You would
house,
have to
right? So I am
request a variance,
still
yes.
monetarily penalized for the easement being taken.
yes, you would still have to.
The whole idea behind, I don't like get involved in it, but we gotta make sure we got a sewer and all that. Doesn't Scott's department take care of that part of it? If there's no way to put sewer on their, like, on their lot, Scott's, they're not gonna approve that. So why are we getting involved in that?
That's what I was about to ask, because didn't we have a long discussion at the last meeting of like, if there's not if the lot is not amenable to fitting the septic systems that are needed, then it wouldn't be approved for the lot split.
No,
Correct.
it wouldn't. They wouldn't approve it, it would never come back to us, but we're still
But it,
trying to penalize
don't-
the resident for property being taken from them by making them do 2 net acres. Take Mr. Clark's.
I initiated that ditch.
And you didn't realize you were whambo jambling yourself.
Yeah, I made it better for the whole Woodtown Road. It flooded. Police come out in front of Mallory's house. They had a wreck a couple of years ago. So I've done nothing but make it better.
So I'm understanding you did one of those like ditch petition things and they now
Yeah.
have the ditch, but then that resulted in them putting an easement in,
Yeah.
which then works against your
The
interests.
property owner before me filled the ditch in. So,
Corrected.
and I corrected it
Mhm.
through the county. I've had the people back in Brookview offer to come with their excavators and do it themselves. And I said, no, I think we should do it the right way, which I thought would be this way.
Big mistake.
Well, the definition, the way that we're doing it right, or proposing here, that in terms of we're maintaining it. It affects whether or not we would grant. whether or not we would approve a lot, it has to meet the net acreage requirement in order for it to get the zoning. But once the zoning is offered and it's approved by the trustees, then they've got the zoning. So that we don't,
About it worked out for him.
that's what I'm saying though,
But-
for as far as our role as a zoning commission, we don't deal with lots.
But if our
I
big,
agree.
but if our big concern is making sure there is enough room for septic. But that's something that the county takes care of. Couldn't we?
But we are charged with not creating parcels that cannot be utilized the way they are being intended to be.
We don't know what the intention of that is. They don't.
And hypothetically, we should never know. Oftentimes people will say to us that they're going to do a split, but that's not information that has to be shared with us. So if our mindset is we want to make sure we have 2
Buildable.
acres so that it could be or 2 buildable lots, and so we want to make sure they have this amount of net acreage. Bottom line is, if they don't have soil that will allow for it, the county won't do it anyway, correct?
Yeah,
But let me,
the
okay,
county might.
Go ahead, Scott.
because I heard the meeting and it felt like, who are these RPC guys trying to give us information to help us make a decision? Who do they think they are? What, if you're gonna rezone 5 acres or 10 acres, you have a lot of flexibility to split that up.
Yeah,
Joe was only zoning. He was only rezoning exactly what he needed to split, and I heard him say, I got a lot of flexibility where I put that line. Well, no, not once it gets zoned.
Right.
And all we saw was a drainage thing going down through there, and we saw not great soils. And so we were just asking the question, in making your decision, maybe ask about the soils. I know you can't make that decision, and I know that once it gets zoned and it doesn't work, then they're out of luck, but then you've let them go down the road that far.
yeah.
And I'm sure Joe did his homework and made sure that's not gonna happen, but I don't know. So we were just raising the question. There were no, when we put conditions on those rezonings, it's nothing he has to take care of for us. I mean, somebody said, have you taken care of regional planning's conditions? That's not how it works. We're just saying, here's some things you might wanna think about as a board. And it seemed like, we've raised questions before. I mean, we used to say, make sure it goes to the prosecutor. I'm sure you didn't do that every time either, right? So it just felt like it spiraled. And I'm sorry if it was worded correctly, but I wasn't trying to say, turn this down unless you get all these questions answered. I was just saying, this is a site that looks like, I
Yeah,
don't know why you didn't just go ahead and rezone the whole thing. I know they paid for it for acreage, so.
yeah. Well, and so that's the other thing. It seems like less of a concern when it's somebody coming with a simple 5 acres that they want to change down to FR1 and have potentially split into 2. And more of a concern when it is these bigger parcels where people are just wanting to pull a chunk out.
Land out
Yeah,
to rezone.
yeah,
Or like you, Virginia, where you started out with 5 acres.
Right.
And are down to 4 point whatever, and now you decide to split, and now you've got additional things that came on there
yeah.
that you weren't aware of, and now you can't split that property.
Well, I don't have the frontage anyway.
I'm not saying.
Yeah,
Just saying if you could.
yeah.
So then you could be down under the net 2 acres, whereas when you bought that property, you were over 5 acres.
Yeah,
So how is that right
yeah.
and fair?
So the big issue that I see with it is I think we're all sort of agreeing that like, oh yeah, hypothetically, the county should say, if it doesn't work because of the soil and you can't fit septic, then it doesn't work and you can't do it. But we've also had consistent issues
With the county doing it anyway.
and with water treatment in the township in general, drainage, everything is always a big point of contention. And so that's where I feel like we're sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place, because I don't think any of us are trying to do what's unfair for the property owners. But on the flip side, if we don't know that somebody's really gonna be watching what's happening to make sure drainage and all the water from a new build is being treated appropriately, then that leads to neighbor complaints as well.
Neighbor complaints and neighbor lawsuits and all kinds of issues, and then we get involved because you shouldn't have allowed this sort of thing,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Yeah, so I'm not saying that, I don't know.
That's,
I
it
understand,
is why we.
I
kinda
understand
decided-
both sides, but I feel like,
But it is why we decided on the net acreage for the
Yeah.
2 acre lots a long time ago. And it has been quite a while that we've had
Yeah.
the net acreage in there. Your mother was chairing back then.
Yeah.
And it might have even been before her, but she was just on the
Probably was.
board.
And one other thing I would comment on is that we say that we don't ask whether the rezoning is gonna be split. We know it's gonna be split because somebody who takes a 5 acre parcel and rezones it to FR1 is now gonna pay for at least 2 building lots in their property tax. Their
Yeah.
property tax rate is gonna go up. So now they have 2 buildable lots, not just one. And it's not a residual, it's not 4 acres residual.
Courtney,
and 1 acre.
Courtney. I will recognize you, but I would appreciate it if you didn't carry on a conversation that makes it difficult for other people to hear.
So if we assume that somebody's coming in to rezone from AR1 to FR1. And we don't assume that they're gonna split it, it's crazy, because they have to split it. They're costing themselves money if they don't split it. So I don't agree with the tack that we've taken up till now, which is we don't ask whether you're gonna split it or not. We don't have to ask. We know you're gonna split it. There's no other reason to rezone it. From especially a 5 acre parcel.
Are you looking at me or you're just?
No, I'm just looking in general.
He's looking through you.
Well, and I mean, it's probably a year before that tax kicks in. I don't know how long it takes. And that's beside the point, I guess. But I mean, that's obviously why they're gonna split it, because that's why they're rezoning. It's just how much time they take before they do.
And with, you know, Joe's, I think he was saying that the size of the parcel they were splitting off and the boundaries were movable because the parcel to the north was already zoned FR. And so he had 2 FR parcels that were contiguous to each other with the same owner. They could decide wherever they wanted to split,
That's fair.
right? So I think he was looking at it and say, yeah, I'll put the line where I have to put
Okay,
the
I
line,
didn't think about that.
right? But
Okay. Well, we're debating this issue, which we've debated multiple times, many times. And the simple solution is to just drop net acreage. And that's the reason it's a simple solution is we don't have to worry about it anymore, other than the rights of way. That is clear. Personally, that's what I favor, but I know that I've got at least 3, 4, Brittany were here, who don't see that. It
Brittany's
just
not.
muddies the water.
No, I see both sides. I obviously am not wanting to do anything that is hindering the people of the township in being able to use their property as they want. And like Mike said, you know, if I were of the proper frontage, it would also hinder me. But I also don't feel like we necessarily get the proper backing on making sure all the soil is proper and everything so that things drain well. And, you know, we get told drainage isn't our issue, we can't do anything about it. But people are also told by the county, oh, you need to show me your house flooded 7 times before I'm gonna do anything. I'm not saying this is you, these are not.
That's partly what happened up on Woodtown Road.
Yeah, and so. I see both sides. I don't know that I have a good solution.
So I wanted, Courtney's been back there chomping at the bit to make a comment. And I want to give her the opportunity to do that, but you can't have a half hour, Courtney.
I don't want a half hour. I promise. So I just wanted to first address that. Maybe like the procedure as far as a lot split, no offense to anyone, but just in case there's any, anyone that doesn't know. I have the soil scientists go out there and they do the test pits. They give us a test, pit report for the soil evaluations. It does go to the health department, and I'm not for sure what you're seeing, but let me just tell you that they are the hardest agency for me to get approved. They very much scrutinize that. When the Ohio Revised Code only allows me to do two types of septic areas for a lot split. There are so many different types of septics out there. So in your township, you have the net acreage. A lot of times I can use with the biggest footprint, and that happens to be 50 feet per bedroom. Long and 30 feet by wide is generally what we use. And that is normally the mound system because leaves the biggest footprint. If that does not work for me, my only option that I can use to do a lot split at that point is a drip system. And that is dictated by the Ohio Revised Code. If I am using that specialized system through using a drip system because the lot is small or has drainage as you're concerned, then I have to get a special letter from the people that do the drip systems and submit that. There's an extra layer involved that I have to prove to the health department that system will be put on, is allowed on there. So the health department is very careful about what it is that I do. Now, that is for the lot split. Once that is split, that does not mean it's a conceptual idea. So that does not mean that's the system that is put on there. A designer can put, there are so many different types, but for a lot split, it is very much looked at. And Delaware also used to do septic designs here in Delaware, and they are also very, very picky of that. Now, rather not you're seeing drainage issues, or you're actually seeing clients that don't know how to take care of their septic, which is causing some of those issues by driving over top of it. I've seen contractors drive over the septic area, compact that area, it gets disturbed. There's a lot of things that goes on that is not caused by the lot split review process that is outside. But again, that falls on the health department and is not a zoning issue. So I wanted to mention that. The other thing I want to say is there is a difference between a road dedication and a road right-of-way easement, or what is the highway easement. And I have given you an example of the highway easement. Those easements that you have examples for, they are given to me by the engineer's office and the sanitary and soil and water. My attorney is not allowed to even change a comma on those. They go over that every single bit. I have to use those. And in order for me to get my approvals to even go to Scott, they hold my approval process hostage until I have provided them that exact document, word for word. They record it, and then they give that back to me with the signatures, and then I can go to Scott to have that approved. My point is that every single lot split, they make me redo that road right-of-way easement. So even if you had 30 feet there, I'm doing a lot split, I have to redo that 30 feet road right-of-way. So I want to say, as far as you're so concerned about all net acreage and road right-of-way, I can't do a lot split without giving the engineers that easement that you have there. That has happened on every single one of them. So the Delco, of course, has been in place if it is there. Very seldom do I see Delco being added, and it's sometimes, hopefully, I always pray it's on the other side of the road when I'm doing a lot split in Harlem Township, so it's not in there. But again, there's a difference between the easement and a dedication. And Mr. Clark here, that over there in Woodtown, he has 30 foot of easement there, but it's Brookview, is that right? Brookview. That is dedicated. And if you look at that on the GIS, you will see that when you click out in front of him, the whole entire road, that means he doesn't own that part. And that's the part he's not paying taxes on, but he is paying taxes on the part that is on Woodtown. And so that is the difference between the road right away and the road dedication. And so he doesn't even own that. That isn't even part of his acreage that he's paying taxes on. So the other thing I wanted to mention was you have net acreage here. If I have someone that is creating a lot, and you did mention that about the large lots, and I'm hacking out a 2 net acreage lot. People always come to me and want the smallest minimum and want the minimum out of there. So that is exactly what you're getting. They're getting this is what the road frontage is, this is what the Delco is if it's in there, this is what the sanitary is. We make that as small as possible. So there's no room for an additional easement on there. So what happens is as soon as I create that, according to your guys's net acreage rule, because honestly, I'm meeting it. It's not something I'm comfortable in why I'm here tonight. Because as soon as those people come and build a house and put a gas easement, or if there's any sort of services that require an easement, they're automatically under your 2 net acres, because I created that lot to be 2 net acres. And so it bothers me that I know I'm creating a 2 lot acre that does, when I have him sign it, but as soon as they go to build it, it's non-conforming technically. That also puts that if I'm creating a 2 acre lot, I have to have a title search on every one of those that those clients are going to have to pay to pull up every easement that has happened over the last 100 years in order to do that. And truthfully, as far as net acres, if I can get the easement, I mean, I always do a feasibility and I'm checking with soil and water. Are you going to want a drainage easement? And not everyone has a drainage easement on their property. I know what size it is, creating a lot for that. But if I can still get a drainage easement on there and meet all those net acre or not, I can see the road right away easement on there, but still meet your setbacks and get a house on there and get the soil suitable for that. I'm not for sure what the problem is, because at the end of the day, they're still paying taxes on 2 acres. So those were just the comments that I wanted to address. That as a developer, I try to be respectful, but it is uncomfortable when I know I'm making a 2 acre lot, that as soon as if they have anything else happen to it, it's non-conforming for that piece. And I've talked to attorneys because I was trying to understand your language, and they said, all you have to do is go in there for a BZA and say, this is not a hardship, or this is a hardship, because none of that it was all taken from them. And that is the hardship. And they're like, it's an easy win. And I don't want your BZA filled up with a bunch of people that could come in here and do that based on that acreage. And there's just so many, it just really isn't fair to the residents that already have a small area to work with anyhow. So I don't know. I mean, truthfully, I digress. Can you believe that?
If I say one thing, Karen Kaufman the surveyor refused to work with me because of that very rule. So I had to get another surveyor who was really unaware of the situation, and I think he's learning now.
Right.
So
I
that's
actually,
been a problem for me too. She didn't answer my emails or my phone calls and wouldn't work with me on it.
there was,
All right. Thank you very much. The issue, I think everyone understands what the issue is. And at this point, coming back again, we agreed that we would leave the language the way that it was. Is there anyone who, besides me, who would like to see it drop all recorded easements and just leave rights of way?
I'm okay with dropping it as well. I think it makes our lives easier to not have to remember what one we're dealing with. And 2, after hearing the process that Courtney goes through, it does seem like there's enough safeguards from the other side. Now, that is assuming everyone else does what they should be. Unfortunately, Courtney, we have a lot of people who come in here without working with a company and are doing this on their own and maybe aren't doing all of the things that they should be. But I'm okay with dropping it.
And Mike, I want to go to our zoning director here.
I'm definitely in favor of it, because I don't think it's fair.
Are you comfortable with it just being right of way? Forgetting the recorded easements part? is that what you're comfortable with?
Yeah,
How about Tom and Joni at this point? You want to leave it the way that it is, or can we drop the words recorded easements and just go with road rights of way?
I still have the same concerns that we create lots which are unbuildable.
Yeah, I'm not thrilled about the idea about dropping recorded easements either. I
But if
mean,
somebody-
We did specify that it has to be recorded. If it's not a recorded easement, just somebody just says, well, you know, I've always been able to do this or that here. That doesn't count. You know,
But it adds an additional burden that,
But it's not a
They-
new
they-
burden.
and I don't know,
It's not a new burden. It's been there for many years and,
also, is it our
you know,
problem if the homeowner or the property owner comes in and requests something that then turns out to be unbuildable?
we're not
That's-
creating the lot,
Yeah, that's
we're
not
just approving the zoning.
our issue, right?
They have to go through the process of trying to do a lot split. We do not get involved with lot splits, and that's why one of the reasons why I think that all of this discussion comes back repeatedly to lot split, but we don't deal with lot splits. We don't
Yeah.
make decisions about lot splits. Someone else does. The Delaware Regional Planning, the engineer's office. And then it comes back to Mike after they've got all of those things processed, and he will sign off on it if they meet all the requirements. Because they've got the zoning already approved.
He's actually first, signs off.
Yeah,
That it meets
right,
zoning first.
but he's gotta have documentation. When he signs off that it has the zoning. But when they come back to get a building permit or for,
He's
them to
always-
get the
he's always
permit,
looking at frontage
that's
and
different.
Lot size.
Yes.
Right, so not just the-
that's what he's looking at.
So
Right.
is he looking at easements?
He has,
Okay,
yes.
and I only ask because that's the language then.
Yeah, no, that's been part of the issue, part of the problem. But once the zoning, and the language was unclear, well, maybe I shouldn't say it was unclear. It was somewhat in conflict before. Because of wording one way in one section and slightly different wording somewhere else. So.
So I guess the one quick point I'd want to make is that I don't see that requiring a title search on a parcel is a hardship. You ought to know what you're buying.
Right, it's not a requirement as far as showing those easements that are on there, but to show it for net acreage. We don't do title searches on a lot split unless we have to do all easements for the net acreage, because most of them, most other townships, the only other township that looks at all easements to do net that way, is Concord. And so in those areas, you do have to do that. As in order to make sure that you have gas easements and all of that on there. But I mean, again, that's an extra cost to your residents. And is another, I mean, unfairness that they would have to do that they wouldn't have to have in any other township.
that
in order
doesn't
to
make
do
it
that.
unfair. It just makes it different And
we
it's-
have
and
the
it's
cost of,
in the code, so. You know, everybody's aware of it before they start on trying to do splits or whatever.
no, I'm just.
Well, they become aware of it once they start the process. They
Right.
aren't aware of it until they start the
Well,
process.
because people aren't researching their own properties.
I doubt very seriously that anyone does that
Um,
until such time as they're ready to bring in a request for a zoning change.
Joni, in all fairness and all respect, I deal with a lot of people, they just don't understand. That's why they call me, they truly don't understand the terminology and what that is. A big portion of my job truly is educating them and teaching them. I just don't take their project and just like, okay, well, give me a check and here's your parcel numbers. I try and help them understand it, and truly, so many people don't understand.
So-
It's, we're so used to living in it, it's kind of like, just going to any other discipline and.
I want to bring this discussion to a close.
Sure.
I'm going to do it by saying, I'm going to make a motion. Only for one specific area. For sections 8. Language in section 8.02. And language in 8.6. 8.06A. That the language would read. In such a way that it would state. Under 806A. No parcel of land in this district shall have an area of less than 2 net acres excluding road rights of way, period. Is there a second?
I will second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. And that's just to bring closure to this.
Okay, can you repeat less than 2 net acres excluding
Road rights of way.
road rights of way? Thank you.
So we're changing the language here to read that way now. And we have a motion and a second. And we've had a lot of discussion. Is there any further discussion on the motion? All right, then we're going to call for a vote. And all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
We next I.
Okay, there's 3 ayes. All those opposed, no,
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 and 2 noes. So on that change, we did take a vote. And in this instance, the vote is 3-2. So the lot area will read, no parcel of land in this district shall have an area of less than 2 net acres, excluding road rights of way, period. And 8.02 will read, gotta go back and find it. Because these pages slipped a long ways, it makes it difficult for me and for everybody else too. That one will read, all lands within Harlem Township, which are to be used for low density single residences and other essentially non-urban types of residential and agricultural activities, shall be not less than 2 net acres, excluding all road rights of ways, and shall be controlled by provisions of this article.
okay, sometimes you included the word all and sometimes you did not include the word all.
Well,
You want the word all in there or not?
we don't. All road, it's not easements.
No.
Just
but
trying to read
sometimes
the
you-
language that we had, so let's make it
Sometimes
consistent.
you included all and sometimes you did not.
Well, let's take it out. I'm not trying, I'm just reading what's there. No parcel of land. It says all in both instances.
no, it says all lands within Harlem Township, and here it says no parcel of land in this district. It starts off differently.
She's talking about all recorded easements and road rights of way. There is a word all in front.
Right,
Excluding all
Right.
recorded easements. I thought that's what we,
exactly.
excluding all recorded easements is what was coming out.
So that would take
Recorded
that
easements,
all out.
recorded.
You're just
that's
taking out, you're just
recorded
taking,
easements is coming out.
you're taking out recorded easements. You're not taking out all in front of recorded easements.
Do we need to, Scott?
Excluding,
No, because you want to include all.
Yeah,
We're talking about all road right of ways.
right. So do you want all or not?
So do we need the word all or not?
No, I don't think we do, because unless you specify that there are other roads that are not affected by this, I think just
All right,
excluding rights of road.
all right, so that the language that we're talking about then. No parcel of land in this district shall have an area of less than 2 net acres excluding road rights of way. Period. So we're deleting all recorded. And so the word all is coming out of that one. And then we go back to 8.02. And it will read. All lands within Harlem Township, which are to be used for low density, single family and other essentially non-urban types of residential and agricultural activities shall be not less than 2 net acres, excluding cross out road rights of way, and shall be controlled by provisions of this article.
So it reads 2 net acres excluding road rights of way.
Correct.
Rights of way or ways? Is
Road.
ways singular or plural?
Road rights of way.
Way is singular, rights is plural.
Right.
Rights is plural, way is way.
In 802 it says.
No S on the end. And that's the language that we have now voted to approve for that. The rest of the language in this article, we're going to accept by consensus unless there's something else that there's a question about that we need to discuss.
Just at the very end of the article, it says amend definitions as follows. That's not part of the article, is it?
No.
That's part of the definitions.
No, just look at the PDF.
That's now going into Article 4.
Not just information.
Okay, so it ends on L with landscaping standards.
Mhm.
Okay, so we now, by consensus, are agreeing with the one exception to the rest of the language that's in Article 8. All right, very good. Thank you, Scott. Now we've got Article 7 and Article 8. Article 15. We stopped the last time. On page 1507. The language changes that we've made here up to page 1507. Is there anyone that has a question or anything there that we need to review? Scott's got, there's a lot of deletion here. Well, the reason, and Scott has presented it to us this way with the, good night, Jim. With the language in here showing the new language or, the new language in red. And then, anything that we're dropping has strikeouts through it. That is the way that the trustees wanted us to present it to them once we get to that. So Scott, keep it that way. Sort of. They do not want a clean copy. That's what they told me.
Most recently, they don't want a clean copy. Before that, they did want a clean copy. But now they don't.
But the last time we took the changes to them.
Yeah.
We took them only a clean copy, and that's when they then said, no, they wanted it this way.
But they had asked for the clean copy only though, before that.
That is correct. So I will verify again with the trustees when we get to the point where we're gonna take it to them. That they still want it this way.
Yeah.
By saying, showing them a copy and saying, now, for you, since you're doing all the work on this, Scott. At some point, once you say accept the changes. Then they all go in. Right?
Well, yeah, I
Under Word.
don't like that whole track changes sometimes, so I just keep it marked up. Like manually marked up, and then when it goes clean, I can say a separate copy.
That's
Oh.
good. That's a good way to do it.
I mean, I've done it in different ways. If you track changes, it puts it on the side and everything shrinks down out of it.
Right.
It's neat, but- Did we move to, did we go to another article?
Yeah, well,
We're on
Do
15.
you have another copy of that? I didn't.
Oh, you didn't bring a copy?
and my dog ate my copy.
Oh, sure, that's what they all say.
Did it really? In his case, he's saying the dog really did eat it.
I have a copy right here if we need to run copies. I think
I
this
don't-
is the
I
most
don't
recent
have
one.
an extra
Oh, I-
copy. I have my copy.
I didn't print a new one because we, it felt like we hadn't made
You can share.
So I think your email,
Here's Article 15.
your email said that
I didn't see.
you didn't see new changes.
Oh, you got one? Okay.
Tom doesn't have
Yeah.
I was gonna say. Actually, I had an extra one.
Oh, that's true. It's not.
You need
Sorry, I
it?
was
Do you
thinking you
need
left
an
it at
extra
home, but your
copy?
dog really ate it.
No? I need it.
Oh, no.
Well,
No, you're good.
Tom needs it.
Tom needs it.
I'll go make a copy for Tom. Is this?
Well, here, I can do it.
Oh, do you have Article 15?
I have the up-to-date one too.
Was that something you gave us last week?
In fact, I have a couple.
That's,
of extra
yes,
copies.
well, I don't know if Valerie got
I
this
do
with you.
extra copies, That's what I do.
I don't think so.
No,
When
it's
I made
the,
extra copies, just.
when are we supposed to get our binders?
Thank you.
What's that?
When do we get our binders?
Get
Yeah.
our binders so we can follow along.
I'm in the middle of deciding on which is more cost effective because the binders have over 300 pages each.
Yeah.
I need to get approval. If I could do it front to back, then I could do it here. If not, then I've got to send it to a copy machine.
Well, we want it run from
They're front to
back.
back.
To front to back.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah,
I can do that. I just need to order some binders too. So I was in the process of getting which approval. I've got the document and I'll get that for
I'll
you.
just follow along up here.
um,
So just bug
did
me.
Virginia go to,
No,
oh, there you are, you're still here.
Not go anywhere. no, Valerie had another copy, so.
Here's a clean copy that could be used and run them off for Brittany, I'm sorry. Or Molly and Louis, or just use that one. You can share it for now if you want to do it that way.
That's fine.
Well, do you want copies of the others? Then we've got Article 420.
All right, I think that they got the other ones
Mhm.
sent.
Okay.
Yeah, it was 15 that they didn't have.
That
All
could be
right.
why I have the extra copies as were meant for you.
So up through page 1506.
Mhm.
and starting at the top of 1507.
Yeah. In the latest copy. That, on the copy I just gave you, under section 1504. Under A, minimum development size, minimum tract size for a PCD development is 10 acres. Is that the way it still reads?
Yep.
Okay, that's the way it's supposed to read. So,
Um,
at one time, we considered changing it to 5, but we decided not to.
okay, because here it still says five.
Yeah, I wrote in 5.
Uh-oh.
Oh, I thought we decided not to do
Yeah.
it.
That's on there on now. Why?
Back to you, well, you don't have your copy with notes on it.
I
Oh.
didn't know I wanted-
What's on your copy? I have 5 here as a note too, but then I have it X'd out.
Of where?
No, I have
You
5,
know-
but I did put a question mark. beside it.
1506,
I don't think we decided.
section 15.
Yeah, it's on page
over
1506.
A.
Minimum development size, minimum tract size for PCD development.
Mhm.
I know there was back and forth about whether it should be 10 or 5. I did mark through 10 and wrote down 5.
I did not. That does not mean anything, though.
Mike and I did.
That could just be me being.
Yeah, we're gonna
taking
spend
notes.
2 months now.
I also wrote a note, do we need a minimum size?
Minimum development size. Well, yes, I would like to see a minimum development size on it, but maybe 5 acres. And I think we talked about it potentially being 5 acres because there are times, there are some people with a 5
It
acre.
already have that,
Yeah,
so we're trying to make some of the existing lots conforming.
yeah, if we put, right, if we change it to 10, then for the PCD that they have though, that applies.
Yeah,
This won't apply to them because they've already got
yeah.
approval for a PCD.
So yes, we do have some PCDs that are only 5 acres.
Yes.
And did you share the table?
Oh, and that you,
Yes, you did do a table too.
and then some of them are 2/10 of it.
Yeah, here's the tables. It's-
And since some of them are quite small, that calls into question whether we need a minimum size on these.
Well, Fiddlestone, is 1.64 acres.
Mhm.
All the commercial.
And some of them get smaller, Mike.
Yeah, we heard of it.
Yeah, 0.2.
That's listed as a
Yeah,
PCD.
yeah, I remember seeing it. I didn't print off.
Oh,
the
that's
paper.
C2.
And then, Shipney here, the attorney's office
Mhm.
is 1.64.
But that's shown as C2 also.
Yeah, the table is gonna be pretty boring with just the PC, so I added.
We're not, it doesn't, I don't think. Well, maybe I'm wrong. I'm just thinking that because it's a planned commercial development. What was approved controls it, so changing. The zoning article wouldn't make that non-conforming, would it?
No,
No,
but I think that's a reason to say there's no minimum acreage. I think I've heard Jim say 5 acres for a commercial development is a big parcel. But you don't need that much space.
Say 10
An
seems.
outlot is usually 1 acre.
So, yeah.
Not that the-
Yeah, so I'm not sure that we need a minimum tract size.
We didn't have it before.
right.
We were talking about adding it, so maybe we leave it the way that it's always been, which is there is no minimum size. I mean, historically, there
Yeah.
hasn't been.
So it says the minimum tract size may be reduced when proposed and developed adjacent to existing land zoned with developed.
For uses
that's-
other than single family,
Yeah.
and I wrote in residential between single family and development there.
So I think I either said that or that was a conversation.
I think that was
So-
a conversation.
But most of the time, it's not going to be. Most of the time, I guess, if it really is going to be residential. In the vicinity and adjacent to it, it's not going to be other development,
Right.
so.
Uh-oh. I'm not sure we need the minimum size at all.
We can't go anywhere without those. Forgot our geese. All right. So what's the
I'd be willing to get rid of,
consensus here?
I'd
Go
be willing
back
to get rid of minimum development size.
Just did.
Yeah, I mean,
rid of it?
And if we have, I don't mind.
well, and especially if it's planned, they have to come with us to us with plans anyway, so. If something about the plans don't work out with the size they're proposing at the time, then we say, no, it doesn't work.
But
Regardless.
if they come to us with a 2 acre parcel and they want to build. Something. With a lot of customers. And it's surrounded by residential development. And we're gonna say, you don't have enough land for it. And they're gonna say, there's nothing in here that says there's any kind of minimum.
Hmm.
And I guess I would go the. Right now, I would argue that it's better to have a minimum. And to be willing to reduce it if it's not a problem, rather than not have any minimum. And wish that you did.
But do you need
mean-
5 whole acres?
I mean, there would still be setbacks and parking requirements and. It's not like.
And I mean,
everything-
can't we like anything, say this doesn't conform to.
What doesn't conform it, you're not saying there's no minimum, what doesn't it? Not.
Well, yeah, but isn't that what we have, like the
Yeah, we still- yeah,
comprehensive
we still
plan in place?
require-
We still look at like if neighboring properties are used for similar things and.
If there's screening, if
Yeah, here
there's
you've got
parking.
100-foot minimum buffer. I mean, there is, you can say that there's protection.
I also wrote in minimum and in part C
Yeah,
at the end of the first line.
Yeah, I did too, so. Minimum tract size for a PC development. There is none. Scott, I think you're the one who originally suggested that we put a minimum tract size in.
Well, that's why it's red. Because initially, I think I went through this, maybe planned. Planned districts fall under the PUD section of the revised code, and it's supposed to be a mix of uses, not just a single use. But then there was a lawsuit. And the township won for approving a single family development with open space. And so that justified the mix of uses. And so then open space became a applicable mix of uses for the purposes of being able to use the plant district.
But this
And
is,
then the thought in commercial is that it would be more than one use, which you would need some acres to do. And now we're kind of at a point countywide where single uses with one development on it can be a plant district. Which everyone seems to be going along with, because the good thing for the township is you get to see the plan and not just rezone something straight commercial and hope that the setbacks work out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as long as people are submitting plan districts for some uses, and I'm not trying to raise an issue that will be a concern, because it hasn't been.
Well, we've got all these things still on, on the book, so to speak, that there is a possible zoning in the township. But at the same time, when you look at the C2 zoning, that's all, I think, I could be wrong, but I believe that all of these were grandfathered in. That there's none that's been granted since zoning went into
Schnipke.
effect.
the Johnson, Schnipke and Johnson
It's the law firm.
law firm.
That's
Was not
C2, I
grandfathered in.
thought it was a PCD.
Yeah, that was not grandfathered in. That was the one that we approved.
Everything with.
Yeah, it was.
everything with-
I'm sorry, I didn't pay close enough attention to it, because I thought it had been approved as a PCD.
No,
Sorry, Scott, you were saying,
Everything with the date at the end. Is from when we started tracking the nineties. Everything before that would be
early.
when we
Mhm.
took in everybody's zoning map.
Right.
It was colored and didn't know the dates.
So you were saying this was the early 90s when you started? So this before the early 90s.
I think, I mean, it's odd that there's so few with the date on. it.
and I think the thing that you've got down as a PID, that used to be the concrete plant across the road,
That's it.
and they lost their zoning when it no longer was used for a concrete plant, so it's no longer a PID as far as I know.
So
My
what does it
understanding.
revert back to then?
No.
Whatever it was before.
Expires. It can't revert unless there's some action by the township.
Well, the township now owns it.
Yeah.
So it didn't really.
Yeah.
Unless they want to build
I
another.
thought that was true. Okay.
Yeah, the township does own the property now.
Yeah,
I mean, we didn't have this table last month. We knew that you had some small sites, so.
Right.
But we
Mm-hmm.
didn't know. So it's, I'm okay with it. Won't hurt my feelings, take out track size.
well, or change it to 1 acre or something that's more reasonable. I mean, 1 acre will fit all the PCDs anyway.
Yes, it would. Everyone comfortable with that? All right, Scott, I think we've got consensus here.
For
How
one,
about you, Molly? You
Good
comfortable
with
with
that.
1
Yeah, I
acre?
think 10
Any
seems a-
comment on this, Louis?
No.
All right. All right, so we're gonna go, minimum tract size for a PC development, 1 acre. All right, and then,
We're leaving in single family residential development.
oh, we hadn't changed anything there. What, you wanna delete that?
No.
We had added the
Go
word
ahead.
residential.
Yeah,
Oh, add the word residential. I'm sorry. I see what you're saying. Yeah. And then we also had looked at adding the word minimum in perimeter buffer
yeah, at the end of that first line.
in the first line. If the proposed development is adjacent to land developed as single family homes a minimum buffer of 100 feet is required. So we're inserting the word minimum.
Yep.
Okay,
Why is
all
the
right, Scott, so that's where the change is beginning.
the inch?
On page 1506, now 1507. Landscaping, all yards, front, side, and rear shall be landscaped. Such landscape plan shall be submitted.
As part of the
That's part
development.
of the development plan.
I'm good with that.
Yep.
Okay. We get down to J. Now, this is new language.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that there is screening, but I wish, could we do it like we're doing the landscaping? Where plans need to be submitted as part of the development plan? Like, I don't wanna just say to people, you either get a wall or a mound. And you choose, and on your merry way you go. I guess I would rather be able to look at the site layout. And work on a plan with the developer to figure out what works best for them and the township.
Well, the assumption is that all this is on the development.
All right.
You mean, you.
So
I
then
don't
why is
wanna-
this all?
Well, I-
Specified more than like landscape?
Yeah, I'm not sure why we stuck that in as part of the development plan, because that to get a PCD, they have to submit a development plan.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
so like for landscaping, we just said
Well, this gives.
they need to be landscaped. As part of the plan submitted. And so here we're giving a lot more.
I mean, this gives them
Specifics.
something to look at, and their landscaping plan. I don't know. I think a maximum of 12 feet between, I would want to see a lot more than a maximum of 12 feet between a tree.
Maybe it's just because landscaping by itself is just more aesthetic, whereas
This
this
is
one is
purposeful.
actually serves some kind of a purpose.
I don't know, I just feel like this too, you know, at minimum such landscaping shall consist of ornamental or evergreen trees that are minimum of 5 feet in height, you know, that's. It's not happening anymore apparently, but the Conservancy at Duncan Run. We specifically worked with them on like, we don't want a big mound with pine trees on top. We don't want that. That doesn't fit our rural feel. That's not what you would see in rural Ohio. And now we're suggesting it to them like that. I understand that this is a different type of development, but it seems like. If we didn't want to encourage it in our residential area because it didn't fit the rural aesthetic of the township, why are we wanting to encourage it here? Because even though this is commercial, we're still wanting it to feel rural, right? Like that was the whole goal.
No, I agree with you.
I mean, it could be that first paragraph. As long as you telegraph the fact that you want these things to be screened and not just a dumpster in the back.
Mhm.
Maybe you
So just take out 1 and 2,
Yeah,
just
so
leave
maybe-
J.
take out 1 and 2, keep J, and I mean, if you want, and you could add that part about such plans will be submitted as part of the development plan, if that's needed to be said.
I would prefer that. I don't want to be encouraging hills with pine trees on top necessarily.
Do our overlay zones have any language around screening? I think they do.
Yes.
Wondered if
I
this
think-
came-
Okay, so,
I'm not sure.
well, after the word
don't think
private
so.
streets,
Yeah, private
read
streets.
the rest of it, and then
Period.
basically say, shall be submitted as part of the development plan? Is that what we're suggesting?
That's what I'm saying.
All such shall be located at the rear, and shall be effectively screened on all sides. Existing or planned public right of ways and private streets,
Period. And then,
period,
Get rid of 1 and 2.
such.
But I think you need to add something about putting it in the development.
Okay, so the same last sentence as F.
You got such plan, Yeah, such plan shall be submitted as part of the development plan.
Well, it's not part of a plan, though. The first sentence doesn't say anything about a plan.
It does, says all such.
Yeah, you see the word
such
plan in
lot-
here?
All such.
All such service areas, production areas, storage areas, trash containers, and loading zones is what that means.
Yes. Located at the rear of the building
Well.
shall be effectively screened on all sides from all adjacent property owners.
What's that, Scott? Did you?
Well, landscape's not. Language writing, it. Such details shall be submitted as part of the development,
Yeah,
instead of like separate.
Okay.
that'll work.
And then that can just be.
And then we're taking out 1 and 2,
And putting in the sentence, such detailed,
such details. Shall be
Yeah.
submitted.
So you're changing F to start with.
Changing F a little bit and then I'm copying that and using it on.
So
PDF.
F will say such details shall be submitted as part of the development plan.
Yeah.
And we'll just pick up that same language.
Yeah. That sounds good. Then it'll read similarly. And we're down to 5 minutes. We will adjourn in 5 minutes.
So 1 and 2 are gone. The
Mhm.
note to the zoning commission,
Let's-
implementing
I was just gonna say, unless you want a very, I put in a 4-point lighting, which you might want. To simplify that as well.
yeah,
Otherwise, I just wondered if you wanted something more standard that's in your overlays, so you don't have different lighting standards for every use.
These are all good things to keep in mind, though.
The lighting plan shall be submitted as part of the development plan.
Yeah.
All exterior lighting shall comply with these standards unless specifically exempted. Is there any reason that that wouldn't be appropriate to leave that this way?
I think it's okay to leave it that way.
Yeah, that's what I'm inclined to think that, because we're saying that they're gonna submit the lighting plan. And then these are some of the specifics that we would be looking for.
Mhm.
A lot of details.
We've asked for some of these things in the past on some of the developments that we've done, but we haven't had it in writing.
yeah.
Right.
So page 3412 of the overlay district, it's Article 34. Has got a page and a half on
We-
lighting with illustrations.
But does it include all of these 4 things?
Not that fast, I don't know.
What do you want to take time to go back?
No, no, I'm just, I'm not sure that we need to be more specific in here. Because we're not being more specific on any of the other categories. And just say. You have to have a lighting plan and we want to see it. And
And I would find this useful for us, though,
Our
rather than us trying to remember all these things that we want.
Well,
overlays do have very specific lighting
oh, yeah,
requirements.
Yeah. but that-
Okay, being more specific about lighting though, because you're right, I'm not gonna remember the number of lumens that I'm allowing, but like. Screening a trash can, I feel like we can look at and without any like lumens involved, we can decide whether or not something is effectively screened.
Mhm.
So I'm okay with leaving the more detailed lighting standards in this
and by
case.
leaving it in here, it also lets the applicant know what the expectation.
Yeah, I think the average Joe can determine what. Screening should look like and what landscaping can be designed as. I'm not sure the average Joe is thinking about downlighting and lumens and all of that stuff.
So here, a lighting plan shall be submitted as part of the development plan, all exterior lights. Lighting. Shall comply with these standards unless specifically exempted. So the first sentence here under K matches what's in the overlay district. And then we have exemptions, prohibited lighting, type of fixtures, fixture height, color temperature, lumens. And then all lighting shall be directed towards the ground and non-essential outdoor lighting, et cetera. So. I don't. One of these standards are not specifically exempted.
I still don't mind keeping these 4 items here.
Well. I'm okay with that. I guess the only thing I would say is that unless specifically exempted, and in here we have 3 specific exemptions. So maybe you want to pick up what we've got here, exemptions. So number 1 exemptions, all exterior lighting fixtures producing light directly by the combustion of the federal holiday lighting shall be exempt, all temporary emergency lighting needed by police, et cetera. I don't know, do we need that amount of detail to say? We're saying there may be an exemption. What is that exemption? What does that come?
Well,
And then-
folks, unless you want to continue, our
Do we revisit this?
cutoff time has arrived.
Lighting should
We set as our limit for workshop.
sections.
I mean, that whole exemption list is more of
I
an
want to be as
enforcement issue
consistent as
than
possible if we already have lighting language in the overlays.
Yeah,
holiday.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you want to like just,
Holiday lighting, that's, I already see that in development plan.
No.
Right.
Then I say we leave those 4. That's.
All right,
Maybe we'll
so
find a thing.
can we just finish this? We're almost done.
I was just gonna ask if you want to finish it, because, okay, so we've agreed, we're leaving these 4. That brings us down to K. And then
Same.
that makes it pretty easy at this point, because we've got the language here, and most of then of what we're talking about, other external impacts as regulated 2116, because the same language is there, it's now in the development standards.
Have we added it to 2116 already? Is it already there?
Already approved.
Okay. Then yeah, that's fine with me.
what is 21?
Well,
One is general development,
General
general development standards, and we added 21.16, and that's been approved. It is now part of the new,
And the general applies to all zonings.
Yeah.
general development standards, correct?
Just sitting here, I realized I need to add. Maybe I just need to read it. I think I missed. To use this district, one needs to go through the procedures as defined in
The procedures section.
Because I took the procedure out.
You didn't.
It came out, but I didn't put reference back to that section that was.
Where's that gonna go in?
I'll figure out.
At the beginning.
Oh, yeah, I see
The
what
other
you're
ones
saying,
too.
yeah. The procedure,
I moved everything back a section. I may have to add
Yeah.
sections and move everything. up. Put that right under purpose.
Yeah.
The reason of the conceit.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You took out all of.
Yeah,
the
because
procedure, but
this,
say what to follow instead. Okay.
yeah, it will go under the procedures that we have in place. What is it? Did we call, it's 23, isn't it? Is that what we had, where we put it in?
I don't remember.
I don't remember for
1.5
sure.
years. Year, but
I mean, that says reserved for future use.
But yes, you do need to do that.
Yeah. Oh, that'll have to be added. All right, so then for our next meeting, next workshop meeting, we'll review these changes in 15, and then we will take up the discussion of the alternative energy systems. Now, did you get this? You got that one.
Remember, I probably did.
Alternative energy systems?
I think you gave us that last week.
Yeah, it was in last week's packet.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, we got a lot more information last week.
All right.
So
And then,
Since we're gonna be
Stop
reviewing.
carrying this binder around then, right? If we're not doing the estates at Duncan Run.
this is, this will be added to the existing Article 20. We have Article 20 dealing with wind, but we don't have anything dealing with solar. So this is what we're looking at potentially adding.
If we're gonna be
number 7 for the alternative energy. You have right of ways in.
Oh, instead of rights of way, it's rights, right of ways. That's such a common.
It just jumped out there.
Yeah.
Right.
I would like to request, just since it sounds like we're gonna be reviewing this 25 again next time. With some of these changes, I would like to request a comparison for the lighting section of what this is to what's in our overlay.
15. You said 25. But you're talking about Article 15.
Yeah, 15, did I say 25?
Mhm.
Initially you did, yes.
So you can go online on the regional planning. I'll send you the link.
Okay, no, I mean, I know where to find it, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, I think we should, as a group. Review, compare what they are and. I don't know, just a suggestion,
Well, we can
try
look
to be
at them,
consistent.
and decide whether or not we want to make any changes. In what's here now. Or what's being proposed in these 4 items. Or full language from what is in the
Okay,
overlay that's already been adopted.
okay,
All right, so yes, you can look at that and then bring forward back any ideas or suggestions that you may have. And we can ask everyone else to take a look likewise. All right,
Mr. Kavler.
that's our potential agenda, Scott, for June then.
If I can ask, the meeting minutes that you've gotten for at least the hearing, HCZC 2403, May 6th, I would love to see if you can review this, approve or not, so I can give it to the trustees because they're gonna be taking this in Wednesday. They would like to have a copy of the approved minutes.
They don't need them for that.
They need them for their
They need them
hearing.
for when they have their hearing. They don't need it to set the hearing date.
Right, no, but the 2403 was a hearing and they're having a hearing Wednesday. So I don't need approval.
Having a hearing,
Or are they setting a hearing?
2403. Well,
Piper, there you go.
no, they're not having a hearing.
They should have only just be receiving
They're
it.
just receiving it
Right, and they've got it on the agenda for Wednesday.
as a
to
hearing.
set a hearing,
They can't have it for a hearing because they've never set the hearing.
I just know that they want approved minutes to go with the packet. I don't know.
They will eventually get those, but
they can't have them yet.
before their hearing, they'll get them, but
That's always the way that we've done it in the past. That is. We just had the hearing last week.
Right,
And what we typically have done historically is that then we would approve the minutes for that first meeting the next month, which will precede the hearing.
that's why I
that they-
did them real
Well, I
quick
think-
for a quick turnaround so they could have it with this week instead of waiting another month.
they don't need them this week. They won't even be looking at them this week. All they're going to do is set the hearing.
All they're doing is setting a hearing date.
Okay,
And if they get mad at you, send them to us and we'll tell them they're doing
I
it
shall
wrong.
do that, because that was my understanding that that was mine, so if not, then we won't worry.
Well, I haven't even looked at the minutes.
Okay,
I sent you, Mike.
I think Jody is the only one who looked at them.
and it's like.
Is there a third trustee?
And the
I
things
don't
that are in
think so.
parentheses.
They did appoint a new trustee.
They did?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Adam Holiday. You'll have to be sworn in or whatever. Which I think is happening Wednesday.
Yeah, now. We want to make any input on those minutes, get it back to
Okay.
Valerie so that she can get those and then they can be approved at the first meeting in June.
Okay.
And that'll then have plenty of time to get it to, and then see, also at that time, you'll get the report back at the end of this month from regional planning. And that goes with them as part of the packet. They normally don't get that packet until after they set the hearing, rather than before they set the hearing.
Okay, my apologies for.
No problem, no problem. It's just that I understand why that gets confusing
Okay.
as you think about it, but at this meeting this month, all they need to do is set the hearing date.
Okay.
And
So they
then
don't need to
that packet,
review it.
that went back to Scott in terms of, to their office in terms of, our recommendation for approval.
Type raise rezoning.
This was the 2.5 acres that,
Okay.
that Joe was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that just goes.
But
straight.
that, we just had the hearing.
Yeah.
The zoning commission, but the trustees have not set the hearing date for it
Right.
yet.
But you just send you're here, so you just send it directly to the trustees.
Yeah, that's right. And then, they'll have the whole, packet to consider when they do set their hearing date. They set their hearing date for then the next month. So it would be likely that they would, well, they may have to have a special meeting because I think it was more
They're
than.
going to. Okay.
Okay. S- Well, with that then, folks, I think we're finished unless there's
Make a
anything.
motion to adjourn. I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay,
Opposed, no. All right, we are adjourned. And
Thank you, Scott.
I'm gonna try to keep anything else from coming back on the workshop meeting date in June, Scott. We'll see if we'll be successful.
Okay.
There's always something that seems to come up.
Sure.
Do you want me to?
There's always.
Thank you.
And if anybody knows anybody who runs a food truck, let me know. We're looking for any kind of food truck for May 23rd for the, Yep.
There's nothing in there about our barns though, so I'm a little curious what happened there.
Thanks, Scott.
I mean,
Thank you, Scott.
it got built. in
Thank you,
my-
Scott. Good night.
Hypothetically, there.
Good night, Molly.
I don't know. It's weird, but I would be happy to have that stuff. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Ow. Thought I had it in the bag. I had it sitting under the bag.
so does anybody else know this new trustee?
Okay, thank you.
Nope.
Doing auto corrections like this. I didn't look. Thank you. I will be.
Is this new
What?
trustee
What is really
what, the people of the Civic Association?
Yes,
Or
okay,
anything?
thank you.
You know anything at all about him,
that?
about his activity in the,
I don't know.
Township?
Louis, do you know anything about the new guy that was put in as the trustee?
Tom, do you know anything about the new trustee?
He lives next door to Molly.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That's all I've heard of.
Yeah, well, Molly's left her. We could ask her if she knows him.
Yeah.
I would imagine that. The next door neighbor.
Or he.
I don't know. I know who my next door neighbors are, but.
Well, that's the way we are too, for the most part. We've got our neighbors and my family. Relationships with them since
Yeah.
Dictionary.
years.
The
But the others,
That's
no.
where it just goes an auto card, because I know, I always.
It's not like,
I,
we're that close even, but
Yes, yeah, we had neighbors in Cincinnati that we still see regularly and like go on vacation with, and our neighbors here, I mean, they're significantly older than Terry and I are, so we'll say hi to them when we see them, but we're not
Thought you the phone guy.
hanging out.
all right. Well,
Nothing wrong with older folks, huh?
I'm not saying I'm just saying we're not
I mean, I agree.
hanging out with them often. We also have the 3 girls with us, so we're a big ask to have over, we don't get
Yeah.
much